I think a lot of folks know that the first aircraft to fly at supersonic speeds was the Bell X-1 rocket-powered research plane, piloted by Chuck Yeager in October of 1947. By the early 1950s, a lot of countries were beginning research to determine the feasibility of developing a commercial supersonic transport aircraft, or SST. However, early engineering problems delayed development. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, the FAA, DoD, and NASA began working together on commercial SST technologies. And in 1961, the FAA became the lead agency for commercial SST development. Since public reaction to sonic booms made by the SSTs could make or break development efforts, FAA, NASA, and the Air Force decided to test public reaction. From July 1961 through May of 1962, the three agencies carried out an operation in St. Louis airspace nicknamed Bungo. During that operation, the Air Force sent B-58 bombers on 158 supersonic flights over the city. The three agencies believed that, although informative, the St. Louis survey left some unanswered questions about public opinion. To learn more, they decided to conduct a second test. Oklahoma City seemed the perfect location for that operation since the region had an economic dependency on the FAA's Aeronautical Center and Tinker Air Force Base. So on February 3rd, 1964, the FAA launched Bungo 2 to test sonic boom effects on buildings and structures, as well as assess the general public's opinions about living with noise. During the test period, I was actually living outside of Oklahoma City. My dad worked at Tinker Air Force Base. I remember initially being a terrified preschooler as the noise ricocheted through our neighborhood as those supersonic jets flew over the house. However, after about a week, that noise was no longer scary. It became a part of life. During the test, there were over 1,200 supersonic flights over the Oklahoma City metropolitan area. And 73% actually of those surveyed felt they could live with the number and strength of the booms experienced. 40% believed the booms caused some structural damage to their homes, although the FAA had some control houses and their houses showed no effects. 27% reported they could not accept booms at all. And about 3% were so upset they either wrote, phoned, sued, or otherwise took action against the government to protest the experiment. The critical issue is still noise and public concerns about noise. After the Oklahoma City tests, the FAA, NASA, and the Air Force conducted a few more tests, but found no way to ease public concern. And in 1971, the federal SST program ended with a lapse in funding. The end of the program, however, did not stop the noise controversy, which was renewed with the development of the French and British Concorde. In February of 1976, the Secretary of Transportation decided to permit the Concorde to land at FAA's two owned and operated airports, National and Dulles, as well as New York's John F. Kennedy Airport on a temporary 16-month basis, during which they would monitor noise complaints. But intense opposition from environmental and citizen groups in the New York area and a ban by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey delayed Concorde service at JFK. It took a 1977 U.S. Supreme Court decision in favor of the Concorde before the Port Authority allowed the aircraft to land at JFK Airport. At the end of the 16th-month trial, the FAA imposed permanent rules for SST operations in the United States. The rules, most of which related to new aircraft noise restrictions, were adopted in 1978. But again, those restrictions did not affect the 16 Concordes already in operation. Now, the Concorde stopped flying over 20 years ago, and interest, as you said, in commercial SST development is again under consideration in the U.S. And in fact, the FAA currently has two SST rulemaking efforts under the war. One concerns noise.